Hey guys, and welcome to a battle featuring myself up against Percy here. I'm going to be taking charge of the Knights of Caledor, led by Imrik himself, up against Percy's Lizardmen and Tic-Tac-Toe. So a little bit of a meme off with our Lord choices, neither of them are particularly competitive, although I think he's outdone me quite a bit by bringing the Master of the Skies. But we're going to our builds anyway, and I'll break that down in a little bit. So in the front lines, I do have white lines of chase, mixing with one unit of silver and guard as well, just to hold the line a little bit better. So double white lines as well can, go toe-to-toe up against Saurus Warriors. They have decent AP, and I think this is a niche matchup where they do relatively well up against Lizardmen and the likes of Dwarfs and heavily armoured foes. In the back line, protecting either flank, we do have two more units of silver and guard, and in the centre pocket we have double rangers. These guys are here to countercharge skinks, red-crested skinks, and all that good stuff. They can also do relatively decent up against Saurus Warriors, although they can struggle to get through that tough, thick armour of theirs. In the very centre, we have the Everqueen's Court Guard, Regiment around Sisters of Avalon. Now, I wasn't actually going to bring these guys. They were kind of a late inclusion in the build. And I thought, long-range pressure is always relatively decent. And even if my opponent does shut them down, probably expecting Sisters of Avalon, as they are rather common in this matchup, he's going to have to spend so much resources just to kill one unit. It's probably not going to be worth it for him. Now, up in the skies, we do have the mighty Imrik himself on top of his very dragony dragon. I can't remember its name, but it has some, ridiculously kind of long dragon name, but still an absolute badass model all round. He's going to become with the Star Lance, Dragonhorn, Lord of the Dragons, as well as Star Dragon's Breath. So an absolute world beater in his own right. However, he is disgustingly expensive, so he's certainly going to have to carry his weight here. Over hidden in the trees, we do have a Mage of Life, simply coming in with Regrowth and Earthblood, as well as her nice little Book of Hoeth and Staff and so forth, just to get a little bit more Winds of Magic. And basically her job is going to be to sit in on Imrik and just healing them up all day. On either flank, we have some Illyrian Reavers as well to try and counter Chameleon Skinks and the like, and that is it for our high elf build, so pretty fun build. Let's hop in and have a look at the Lizardmen forces. And in their front line, it looks like they have Skink Cohort mixed in with Saurus Warriors dotted all the way along, and I'm a big fan of this. It's a very long, wide formation, and that is the way to go up against high elves in my personal opinion. Now, guards in each flank, we do have some Cold One Riders as well, one of them being Spear Riders on the left-hand flank, and a couple of units of Crocscott as well as sitting behind these skinks, waiting to pounce and hammer home upon the enemy. We do have double Feral Bastiladon as well. Going to be able to push through and get into my back line very dangerously. And two Skink Priests. So we have one with a Manticore summon to be expected, and then one coming in with Wind Blast and Harmonic Convergence. So pretty decent build. Up in the skies, he has the Clostodon Hunters, regiment of renowned Repidactyl Riders who are anti-large. So Imrik's got to be a little bit careful, but they are crazy squishy as well. So if Imrik can get the charge on them, he can certainly wear them down quite quickly. And of course, up in the air, we have the mighty Tic-Tac-Toe, going to bring in Master of the Skies and his drop Sphere of Teapot. So pretty damn fun build, relatively competitive I think, apart from the Tic-Tac-Toe pick there. So over on the right hand side, we do go in for an initial charge down on these skinks, but do pull back as just taking my opponent's micro, and he does counter skirmish very well with these Cold One Spear Riders. So I'm going to be falling back, going through the trees, and going behind some Silver and Guard for a bit of protection. The sisters are loosing some arrows here, looks like just into Saurus Warriors for now, while I'm waiting for my enemy to get into range. He did very wisely pull back his hunters. They got dangerously close for a while there, and as I said before, they're very squishy, so I'm trying to target them out as quickly as possible. Do lose a few shots into the Feral Bastiladon, just doing a nice little bit of early damage. I'm going to be pushing forward with Imrik at this point just to try and pressure my opponent. I'm not really thinking of diving in, but I'm trying to get him to commit to the Clostodon Hunters, so my Everqueen's Court Guard can do a little bit of damage to them before they kind of get stopped, as there's so much punching power in this Lizardman build that can push through. It's going to be quite hard to protect these guys. So I do focus down the Skink Priest of Heavens. At this point, I think he's his only caster. I haven't seen the Beast cast, so I'm trying to finish him off so he can't do any nasty Wind Blast into my back line. But looks like we're not being at the most accurate here. As the front lines do engage, the Feral Bastiladon ramrods his way into the back line and instantly hops on top of the Everqueen's Court Guard. We are going to countercharge some Silver and Guard in just a second and pull back with these guys. And Imrik's going to be doing his best in a backline protection role, trying to hop on top of this Feral Bastiladon, doing some huge damage, but at the same time being countercharged by the Clostodon Hunters. So we are indeed going to pop the Lord Dragons down on these guys, lowering their melee attack by 40 and melee defense as well. So they're not going to be doing too much damage despite all their buffs. Now in the back line, let's slow this down a little bit as there's a lot going on. In the back line, Tic-Tac-Toe did try and land on my caster, I believe, so I'm going to pop on top of him with the Illyrian Reavers. Dragonhorn has been popped as well, buffing up all of my troops. More skink cohorts are popping into the back line to try and shut down the Everqueen's Court Guard, who have turned to lay some shots here into the Colossodon Hunters. We're also getting a nice fat regrowth, it seems, down on top of Imrik. Frontline not going too great for me, to be honest. I'm slowly being beat down by Crocscores. We're doing a decent amount of damage at the same time. We commit the mage into the back line here in an attempt to tie up his troops. My opponent with some good micro going to force his way through on top of the Everqueen's Court Guards, who do indeed turn to engage there, so they cannot run away. So it looks like we have been down at the Feral Bastiladon, and the Colossodon Hunters are taking an absolute arse whooping here. Illyrian Reavers have been terrified and getting forced back, unfortunately for them, as they're actually starting to do some okay damage on Tic-Tac-Toe, but that pesky Feral Manticore summon is a bit of pain. So the Colossodon Hunters do try and force their way onto that Everqueen's Court Guard, but once again we're simply going to bounce back, and Imrik punches like an absolute truck here. So we're doing some huge damage to these guys and really trying our best to protect these sisters and terrifying off some skinks in the process as well. As for the main line, you can see Silverguard will slowly lose to Saurus Warriors, unfortunately in the vacuum. Over on this left-hand flank, a lovely Wind Blast coming down my opponent, really doing some not huge damage. Looks like it wasn't overcast, but some great disruption to my forces, forcing onto their backs, and these Crocscores to really give a paddle in here to the Rangers and Silvern Guard. Over in the trees as well, we have a decent situation with Silvern Guard fighting Crocscores in the trees, isn't too bad, and White Lions as well beating down Saurus Warriors. In the back, we have surrounded some Saurus Warriors with our Illyrian Reavers coming for a lovely rear charge, and some Rangers trying to break these guys as much as possible. Tic-Tac-Toe is desperately trying to go after my Mage of Life, and he does this for quite some time, and unfortunately Tic-Tac-Toe is just pretty terrible, and he's not even landing his attacks on the Mage. He can occasionally snipe out a caster, and that's kind of the 1 or 2 times you see him do okay in a battle, but he has to get pretty lucky with his RNG, to be honest, and the Mage is just going to cackle and ride away, as the Everqueen's Court Guard just trying to drag out enemy units at this point. He's got 2 Bastiladons over here and some skink cohorts. So at least I'm kind of wasting those guys' time while Imrik pops back into the centre pocket. I tried to save some of my troops where possible and clear up Crocscore units and the like. Another Earthblood does come down as well, healing up our Silvern Guard, which is always pretty decent. Nice rear attack coming in by my opponent, as these Codron Spirits are doing a decent job all round, kind of been all over the battlefield so far. Things are looking a little bleak. Balance power is in my favour, but we're quite heavily outnumbered. The one thing going for me here is Imrik is so goddamn healthy, so he does launch himself in after this Feral Bastiladon. Tic-Tac-Toe does come in for an attack, but honestly, I'm just not fussed. I just go after Feral Bastiladon instead of Tic-Tac-Toe. To be honest, I should probably turn and kind of munch on him a little bit, but he does have Master Skies popped again in that massive melee defence. Deal kill one of the Garys here, unfortunately, which is, you know, kind of a sad day, but it had to be done. And a little bit of lapse on micro here. A couple of my units, as you can see, are just kind of chilling, and they need to get back to the main fight. And we are trying to consolidate our forces now in the main blob. Fortunately for me, the Everqueen's Court Guard haven't been able to do much of the entire battle, but they are distracting a ridiculous number of troops here. So Skink Cohort, Colossal Hunters, Bastiladons, and he pushed so much into them to shut them down that they didn't get their value, but it did allow Imrik to kind of pick off isolated troops. And we have a huge blob fight in the centre pocket here, so White Lines of Chase holding firm here with Imrik, who is actually trying to focus down at the Cold One Spear Riders where possible. I'm ignoring Tic-Tac-Toe. I'm not too worried about his damage output, so instead I'm popping on top of the Spear Riders, Crocscores, trying to do damage to them. We have Silvern Guard dotted in here as well, trying to protect as much as possible. Yeah, interesting to see where Tic-Tac-Toe does drop his rock if he's going to do it. I think does some pretty decent damage. While Silvern Guard are going to be rallying to the cause here, absolutely bloodied, charging headlong and fearlessly in there on top of these Crocscores. Going to be able to do decent work up against those guys, have they all take a bit of damage back. The 3 Colossal Hunters do pop in here, but it looks like Imrik's still having the time of his life here. Up to 52 kills, not doing too bad at all. Tear out an Elves teams as well. White Lines of Chase getting back into the action. There is a still pretty damn healthy Feral Bastiladon here. Tic-Tac-Toe is very healthy as well. Looks like he's fallen back in an attempt to rally some of his troops, who are falling before the mighty Imrik. Up to 64 kills now, focusing down these Crocscores, doing really good work. And look, once again, Tic-Tac-Toe does decide to come down hunting my Mage of Life, who was saying hello here to a little skink beast of beasts. But simply going to just trot away on our Elven Steed. Very quick beast indeed. Should be able to flee. And yes, Tic-Tac-Toe can catch me, but he'll get a hit and then take up into skies and try and hit you again. So I'm just distracting him as long as possible. We're going to drop in another Earthblood down here as well, keeping the Silvern Guard as well as White Lines of Chase fighting a little bit longer. And their main job here isn't really to do the damage, it's just to soak up some of the hits and attack animations. as Imrik does get completely surrounded here. Lord of the Dragons has been popped on these Cold One Riders, so they're not going to do much attack at all. Melee attack down to 0, melee defense down to 2, so we can now really turn and do some decent work on them overall. Major Life is even getting in there with her mighty staff. So if you have a quick overlook of the overall battle, Everqueen's Court Guard are slowly coming back to the field here, just firing some shots into some skinks at the moment. With a few units as well kind of returning to the field and slowly coming back, Silver Guard, White Lines and the like. As for my opponent, Cold One Spear Riders, maybe rally here, but won't really be able to do much in the battle left for their health. Colossal Hunters have been completely shattered as well. And lots of troops just consistently routing here as they take massive damage from the Lord of Dragons. Star Lance is popped, as well as the Dragon Horn has been sounded. And he's just beating down at these Cold One Riders at this point. Sylvan Guard here to say hello and try to protect Imrik once more. Feral still doing okay. You can see he's been absolutely decimated by Imrik for the most part, who's launching his way into combat. He takes a big old snapping attack as well, doing some pretty good stuff all round. Our units consistently break at this point, but they are rallying because the balance power is so healthy in our favour simply due to Imrik being so strong. But at this point, we're just dancing around with the Mage of Life, trying to save up as much magic as possible when we can. We are running a little bit low now, but just keeping those Earth Bloods to keep Imrik nice and topped up. Feral has been forced off. Focus Instinct has been popped as well to stop these troops rampaging, which I think is a bit of a mistake actually. You probably want to rampage in this situation for the damage bonus because you're all going to be attacking Imrik anyway. So not being able to control them doesn't really matter too much. So Skinks did manage to beat off the last of the White Lions, who are up to 147 kills, so they've certainly done a decent job. And Imrik is just absolutely tanking. Another Earthblood has been popped here. He's munching on some Cold One Riders. The Sisters did finally get back into shooting range here, but my opponent's simply going to float over this Skink Priest and shut these guys down. But you can see they're going to be launching 1 or 2 arrows at least. The majority of my forces are being completely broken off at this point. You can see we have 50 models left compared to 148 of my opponent. And in comes the Mage as well, trying to protect these Sisters where possible, but looks like they do instantly shatter simply by the presence of the enemy. Now this is a really clutch play by my opponent here. He does drop down a Feral Manticore into the last stages of the game here. Now Feral Manticores can do a huge amount of burst damage, so if we get some rear attacks on Imrik, and with support from the rest of the Lizardmen forces, he could certainly do some decent work. Instead, he decides to go after my Mage of Life caster briefly, which is a really good decision in stopping that. And instead come down to Imrik, because he needs the help here. But we are going to retaliate a little bit here. We do drop Lord of the Dragons. We had one of those left. We pop it on the Feral Manticore, so it is basically doing no damage, which is perfect for me, and has no melee defense. So we're simply going to turn around now, and Imrik will feast tonight, proving he is the Lord of the Skies. And that Feral Manticore has been absolutely decimated. Look at its health just absolutely chunked there, and it's already routed within a couple of seconds of landing. So that Lord of the Dragons came in handy at death there. I was saving it just in case I needed it. Imrik getting a little bit danger low here, 2,800 health, but he's now fighting tic-tac-toe on a more level playing field. There is some Cold One Riders coming back into the fray as well, so we're simply turned to engage those. And Imrik hasn't been in the sky in absolutely ages, just been fighting it down and dirty, up to 112 kills. Really put this game on in a backpack and put it on his back here. He is carrying hard. The Mage of Life does fall back as the Feral Manticore once again it does surge forward. At this point, my opponent doesn't really want to commit with tic-tac-toe. He's been kind of dancing up in the air, falling back and the like, but he really needs to stand by his troops, as at the moment they are simply getting shattered off at this point. And White Lines of Chase have once again returned. These guys have been pretty loyal despite the amount of times they have fallen back. And Imrik, a big old tail whip on tic-tac-toe. Looks like it didn't quite connect there. So it goes in for a second one. Maybe try a new attack, buddy. Then with the lance or a big old breath to the face. Tic-tac-toe holding firm though. Perhaps he can seal a victory with some crazy RNG. But looks like he's going to be broken by the mighty and terrifying Dragon Lord himself. So that is going to be game. Very well played to my opponent. Super fun build. I actually really enjoyed his build. Just going a little bit mean with tic-tac-toe, but it's always fun to have a bit of fun on ladder. Been trying some pretty wacky builds myself recently, so it's pretty fun to come up against someone who is in the same mindset at the moment. So very well played to Percy there. I hope you guys did enjoy that battle. Now, for my build, it was pretty damn fun. I mean, Imrik actually ended up carrying the day pretty much. 123 kills, Also managed to destroy a lot of the Croxagors, the Bastiladons, Tic-Tac-Toe at the death, Manticores, Colden Riders. He really did the heavy lifting, whereas the rest of the forces, yes, we've got, 113 kills here, 149, a lot of those were just on Skink Warriors. The Queen's Court Guard probably weren't the best pick here, as my opponent was almost always going to go for a big rush build. It's very common with the Lizardmen going for the Feral Bastiladons, Croxagors, and so forth, just to overwhelm and get into the back line. But I thought one unit to entice the enemy in wasn't the worst decision in the world. I couldn't really protect them, but at the same time, he put so much resources kind of sunk into them just to shut them down, and that allowed Imrik to float around and finish off whatever enemy units he did. As for my opponent's build, really solid build, literally apart from Tic-Tac-Toe. Just cut him out and add pretty much any other lord in here, and that'd be a pretty decent build. Just a Saurus Old Blood would do. I'm not quite sure how much Tic-Tac-Toe costs, but Saurus Old Blood on a mount, and you have a pretty solid build. Anyway guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We're getting dangerously close now to that 1,000 mark, which is pretty damn awesome. We do all things Total War Warhammer based, and there is an announcement as well. There is a new DLC coming out relatively shortly. Well, not relatively shortly, probably be a few months away yet, but it looks like the Wood Elves are going to be getting some love, as well as one of the base Warhammer 2 factions. That's High Elves, Dark Elves, Skavens, or Lizardmen. So one of those will get combined with Wood Elves for a DLC. Now, which of those base factions do you want it to be? Personally, I want more Lizardmen, despite the fact they've had so many DLCs already. I believe High Elves and Dark Elves got more recent ones, and I think the Lizardmen need a tiny bit more of love. They're still very, very good all round, but I believe there's a skink, a hero who can ride this really cool, like, Troglodon or something. So there's definitely certain stuff they can do, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.